This week on Capitol Report, a giant leap forward for Connecticut to expand access for youth mental health services.
We have created benchmark legislation that is already being recognized by other states.
We need to make sure that the access and the services are available.
Plus, Governor Lamont takes a bite out of Connecticut's debt and delivers a reality check.
Now we're in a very different situation and we're trending in the right direction. Average is never good enough.
Help wanted. The state looks to hire someone to spot election misinformation.
And they'll get to work making sure that no misinformation about Connecticut elections gets out there.
But that plan isn't sitting well with everyone.
So we're going to spend $150,000 for somebody to troll the internet.
And a pit stop for lunch turns into a nice surprise for Senator Murphy. Capitol Report starts now. Welcome to Capitol Report. I am Tom Dutchick, and we are so glad you're spending part of this Sunday morning alongside the Power Panel. The coach, Joe Arasum, was former Speaker of the House. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, sir. I'm really happy to be here with my guys.
All right, Johnny Mack there.
I'm back and happy. My New York Rangers beat the former Hartford Whalers now.
There you go. All right, let's bring it, Johnny. So, unanimous votes in the General Assembly, about as rare as a Yeti sighting, but during the legislative session, lawmakers came together to approve 3 children's mental health measures into law. Governor Lamont signed them into law last week. New legislation will increase the resources available to schools, provide better access to services for kids and families, and assist with the hiring and retention of social workers and healthcare workers. Here's what a couple of Democrats who championed the bill had to say last Wednesday. Watch this.
I've been educated for 31 years and chaired this committee for the last 3. And my conversations with my colleagues in education is conversations I've never heard before. The concerns that our children are having in our schools, the supports that they need from us, we listen and we're going to deliver.
A child with mental illness is not inherently dangerous. If you hear someone say that, if you hear someone say that the tragedy in Texas is about mental health, beg them to finish that sentence. It's about the fact that their governor cut $200 million from the budget for children's mental health. But here in the state of Connecticut, we are investing $500 million more in our children.
At the end of the news conference, Republican State Rep. Tammy Nuccio jumped in and explained how the American Rescue Plan, as McKinney calls it, ARPA funds, are helping to pay for the initiative. She also pointed out that tracking the spending will be a key component in all this. Watch this.
This is something that we can say we absolutely use this money for its 100% intended use, which is to rebound from COVID. So having this money available in 5001, at least 90+% of that bill is funded by ARPA money with data collection on the back end. So then we can look at the information that we're getting to see if whether or not what we have put out there is actually going to work. And if it doesn't, we have the opportunity to tweak it. And if it does, then we have the conversation of how we put it forward in the budget.
Guys, noticed former Senator Don Williams' strap hanging in the back of that press conference. It made me remember that in Killingly, there's an article in the Mirror that tensions are high over this mental health bill and a mental health center in Killingly. So this is not all, is controversial here.
It is controversial, and I hate to keep picking on Killingly. I've done it before, so I'll keep it somewhat vanilla on this one. But look, there's already charges filed at the State Department of Board of Ed. They're looking into it, to what Killingly did. Our kids are suffering. We both, all of us, have heard about it personally, professionally. As a coach, I'm talking to kids all the time in the school. The stressors and what's going on in their lives, what they see going on in the world are really tough. So the more we could do, the better. This is what the ARPA funds should be used for. This is the type of services and what they're doing, 24/7 access, training the parents. It's a very good thing, and I'm glad it was bipartisan.
Yeah, and this was an important initiative even pre-pandemic. It's absolutely critical now. You just need to live in your community and talk to parents about what kids were going through in the pandemic. Mental health issues are always tough to talk about, you know, look, if you break your arm, you're calling your friends saying, who's the best doctor to repair my arm, right? But if you suffer from mental health issues, you're afraid to talk about it publicly, and we shouldn't be. We need to continue to get rid of that stigma. I think Representative Nuccio brought a really good point out, which is we're going to track this funding, find out what's working and what's not. That's not something, right, Joe, we do all the time when we spend money in Connecticut.
Yeah, we've typically not done it very well. We don't circle back. We don't check on the results, whether it's economic development, mental health, schooling. We do it in all these areas. But I think back to when we negotiated the gun bill after Sandy Hook, John, and we heard the stories about kids being in hospital emergency rooms at times 2 and 3 days before they can get admitted and find beds. That has to change. These kids are struggling right now.
Yeah, and you know, we spend a lot of time talking about Republicans versus Democrats and fights, and that's all sexy and good. This is really what the legislature does. Most of all, what made me so proud to be a member of it, they all worked together. It was unanimous. This is really good bill.
All right, guys. So looking for a job? How's your knowledge of the dark web and the internet subculture websites? Well, still with me? Well, Connecticut is looking to hire an election information security analyst, specifically a position created out to sniff out mis- and disinformation related to Connecticut election administration before it spreads. The salary? $150,000 a year, not bad. But some Republicans slamming the job posting. Secretary of State's office, of course, disagrees. Watch this.
We've been on notice since 2016, and it's been the Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations have been unified in their belief that foreign powers are trying to spread misinformation about America's election system to really undermine credibility in elections, which are at the core of our democracy.
But at a time when people are having difficulties putting food on the table, this is how Connecticut prioritizes the money. So we're going to spend $150,000 for somebody to troll the internet. The Democrat Secretary of State's office participating in elections and censoring free speech.
So, guys, there's nobody in the Secretary of State's office who does. I mean, they have communication directors on top of communication directors. Nobody can do this. Nobody. You have to go out to bid for $150,000 a year. Joe?
Well, I can't explain it, Tom, but with the name itself, it's probably the dumbest name I've ever heard. I understand what they're trying to do. I think they could have done it in different ways. There's a lot of activists out there on both sides that I'm sure would volunteer their time. But the bigger problem is this. Elections are now being looked at skeptically because of what's happened on the national level, and it's not happening in Connecticut. Almost every candidate I've heard believes Joe Biden's our president. There was nothing to go. But this other whispers around the entire country about our elections can't be trusted. People are voting. They're illegal voting. These fake claims. There's no proof of it. None. U.S. Attorney's Office, everybody else has looked at it, but once you start casting doubt in our election, whether it's foreign powers or internal people, they're going to see little cracks and they're going to try to get in. I don't think this is necessary. I do think the money could have been spent elsewhere, but we should be responsible.
It could have been someone's job responsibility who's there already.
Well, first of all, the fact that it's $150,000 a year is insane. What happens after the election, which is 6 months away from now?
What are they going to do?
What's a person going to look? What they should have done, if they really wanted to do this, they could have gone to the college Democrats and the college Republicans and said, we've got this great idea for interns. It's going to be bipartisan. They can spend all day at the internet. That's what kids do anyways, right? And they can give this. But the bigger issue here is Joe makes a point, which is right. We need integrity in our elections. People need to trust that our elections are right and fair. This actually hurts that. Yeah. A Democrat partisan hiring a disinformation officer makes people on the other side question the legitimacy. Who defines what is misinformation and disinformation? Nobody knows. And what I hope they do is that whatever this person does will be documented and subject to the Freedom of Information Act so the public can find out what did they flag as mis and disinformation and who did they call about it and what was done. And I bet they won't do that.
I agree with John on that one. I think what he just said was dead on, and the people deserve to know what's going on.
And then after the election's over, what are they going to be doing? Nothing. Sitting in their office. All right, guys. Well, Governor Lamont announced the state has hired Aetna, a CVS health company, as the new Medicare Advantage administrator for the state. Expected to save the state $400 million over 3 years and reduce the state's unfunded liability by $7.5 billion. Nice, right? Well, Governor Lamont gave himself a little pat on the back about this last week, but he wasn't shy in admitting that the state has a long way to go. Watch this.
most importantly, we've gone from having one of the most underfunded retiree health care plans in the country to doing a lot better now, about average, and what a difference that makes in terms of your security, knowing that you've got your health care that we promised you and you can count on it, and the taxpayers should be proud that we're doing that at a better bargain for them. That you're not going to get your fiscal house in order unless you get your fixed costs in order. We have a long way to go. Don't understate that. But we've made progress. We've made progress on when it comes to pension. We've made some progress when it comes to bonded indebtedness. And as of today, we've made big progress when it comes to health care costs.
Hey, that sounds like an election speech, Johnny. Set up a real wonky first block here. We're talking about health plans. Jeez.
Yeah, well, this does save a lot of money, and that's a good thing. But I think the governor is being very honest here. There's still a long way to go. Despite historic budget surpluses and payments into our pension in 2019, 2020, our state liabilities actually increased, right? Our retirement liabilities increased $8.4 billion, and in 2020 we were 50th, last in the country in terms of per person debt on our liabilities. There is a long, long way to go.
Look, if debt is your big issue, then I think you should be voting for Ned Lamont. Look at what he's done in the few years, right? We built it up with a bipartisan budget, but he's held the line. He's pushed back against his own party in spending the money. He's gone on the debt diet. I know we can say last year wasn't much of a debt diet, but think about it. 30% down our liabilities over the last 4 years. It's going to be almost $4 billion going into the pension fund yet again this year. I mean, those are huge steps. I used to go out and talk to business leaders, and I was surprised to hear from them. They knew the exact number of our liabilities. We're making progress. We're getting better. The bond market is showing the results. They keep upgrading us. At a time before, we had a pretty low rating. So things are going the right direction. And if that's your issue, Ned Lamont's your candidate.
Well, look, we're going to kind of agree to disagree a little bit there. I thought, Governor Lamont came out and said, I'm going to put Connecticut on a debt diet. I cheered. We know what Dan Malloy did. Frankly, with Democrats in the control of the legislature, borrowed more money than any governor in the history of the state of Connecticut. The debt diet was appropriate until the legislature convinced the governor not to do the debt diet. Yeah. We still need to be on a debt diet. I hope he goes back to the debt diet.
All right, guys, so apparently it's not that easy to get your name onto a primary ballot in Connecticut. Does this give incumbents a clear advantage? Up next on Gallup Report, we're going to take a deep dive into this issue with Connecticut Inside investigator Tom Hopkins. Stick around. We will be right back. Don't go away.